Hey, how's it going? This is Sean Boy Pupanza. You can see me in various videos where I dispel several myths that the mainstream media tries to promote. This video is a bit different in that I'm dispelling of a myth that most Americans constantly repeat, which is that the mainstream media has a liberal bias. This myth is based in large part on the well-proven bias of the media in favor of Hillary Clinton and against Donald Trump. This has been shown in many ways to the point that even the vast majority of Clinton supporters saw this bias. However, contrary to public opinion, the bias was not liberal, but corporate. Just like the 6 corporations that own the media. One element which dispels this myth right away is a highly and uncontestable unfair treatment that the media gave Bernie Sanders. There are many examples of this. For example, the Nevada convention, where the media accused the Bernie Sanders supporters of being violent and of throwing chairs, whereas the video evidence showed that this was completely a lie. I can go on, but there's no question that the bias was extreme. Of course, if the media were really biased to the left, the bias would have been in favor of Sanders and not against him, which was the case. No, the bias was corporate, which is why it's consistently in favor of candidates like Hillary Clinton, which are backed by large corporations, including the corporations that own the media, and not candidates like Sanders or even Trump. There is something else which also proves that the bias of the media is corporate and not liberal. I did a recent video where I showed that the real divide is not between Democrats and Republicans, but rather the people and the elite. And I showed 5 major issues that the people, both Democrats and Republicans, agree with for the most part. Indeed, most Democrats and Republicans are against interventionist wars. They're against fracking. They're against the outsourcing of jobs. And they're very concerned about the increased economic divide. And they definitely want money out of politics. I also showed that conversely, the establishment politicians from both sides of the aisle took the exact opposite stance on all of those issues. They vote in favor of interventionist wars, they vote in favor of fracking, and they vote for trade deals which allow the outsourcing of jobs. They definitely avoid discussing the increased economic divide. And most importantly, at all costs, they want to keep money in politics. These values are all corporate values, since they all greatly further the interests of large corporations. And most importantly, they're precisely the same corporate values which the mainstream media aims to promote, or at least whitewash by dismissing any criticism. This is certainly the case with interventionist wars like the war in Iraq, and the whitewashing can't be contested regarding the wars in Syria, Afghanistan, and Somalia, especially by dismissing any arguments regarding how these wars actually increase rather than decrease terrorism. Exactly the same thing with fracking. For example, the mainstream media channels advocating a pro-fracking report, which of course they failed to mention was funded by the gas industry. And yet again, the same thing regarding the outsourcing of jobs, even sometimes going so far to say that such outsourcing is beneficial to the US economy. Furthermore, the love affair between mainstream media and identity politics is no secret. Major news programs not only allow but strongly encourage discussions regarding alleged divisions between all sorts of groups: blacks against whites, women against men, gays against straights, people from the country from people from the city, Democrats against Republicans, millennials against baby boomers, white men against everyone else, you name it. In fact, any and every type of division you can possibly imagine, with the exception of one division, which unfortunately is the most real: that of the privileged against the working class. The reason is obvious. Any recognition of this division goes directly against the interests of the corporations, like those which own the mainstream media. Likewise, it will also avoid discussions regarding the stark and increasing economic divide. And as we have seen, once a political candidate, especially a presidential one, breaks an unwritten rule, they're marginalized, ignored, and even ridiculed, just like Bernie Sanders was. Finally, and most importantly, the mainstream media avoids at all costs the subject of money in politics. And as with the economic divide, once a political candidate, especially a presidential one, breaks that unwritten rule, they're again marginalized, ignored, and even ridiculed. Again, just like Bernie Sanders was. Before signing off, I just want to mention that many Republicans would probably argue that mainstream media plays a tremendous amount of identity politics and witch hunting for any type of alleged racism, sexism, homophobia, what have you, instead of focusing on more serious issues. And they're right. Mainstream media does that. They do exploit and escalate any possible sign of racism, sexism, homophobia, etc., even when there isn't any. However, contrary to public opinion, identity politics does not advance the liberal agenda, but the corporate agenda. In short, because it divides Americans rather than unites them. But that's a different video, which I'll be doing in the future. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think below.